What the fuck is up, people? Thank you so much for tuning in to the MMA Podcast. Like always, we got a shitload to talk about. We got Chael Sonnen apparently in a fracas with Team Vanderlei over at the filming of TUF Brazil 3. We're going to lead off with that. We're also going to break down UFC on Fox 10, a very controversial decision. Benson Henderson defeating Josh Thompson via split decision. Also, we have UFC 169 this weekend, Super Bowl weekend in Newark, New Jersey. Very excited to talk about that. Featherweight Championship, Jose Aldo versus Ricardo Lamas. Bantamweight Championship, Renan Barão versus Uriah Faber. I'm ready to do this shit. Let's do this shit, cocksuckers.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast!
That's right, Lenny Hart. It is the MMA Podcast, and once again, we thank you for tuning in. It is our 75th episode. Is that an Emerald anniversary, Jade anniversary? I don't give a shit. If you want to be a part of this anniversary, though, you got a number to call in, 213-457-3380. You can also Skype us at The MMA Podcast, tweet us at The MMA Podcast, or visit themmapodcast.com. Quick shout out to all of our buddies over at MMA Mental. Our boy Ross Finkelstein taking a little bit of a sabbatical. Also, a quick programming note before we introduce you to everybody who's on the call. We're actually going to be moving the show from Monday to Wednesday next week. So next week, it's going to be the first week of February. We're not going to do the show on February 3rd. We're going to do it on February 5th and hopefully stick to Wednesdays from there on out. We are joined, like I said, by a few people today. And the first one, his ass doesn't even need an introduction. Ramsey's from the Word on the Street. What's going on, cocksucker?
The Word on the Street. You can follow me on Twitter, the Aunt Jimmy Show, but that's going to change soon. Look, people, I was bringing you breaking news a month before it was breaking news. TUF Brazil 3, Sonnen versus Silva, Vanderlei Silva, going down on the UFC Fight Pass. I told you about it weeks ago. They're acting like it just came out today. God bless everyone else on this call. And God bless the MMA Podcast.
We're also joined by 11-time Olympic gold medalist, a true inspiration. He is a little tired. He might need to pop off the episode early. We start this shit off very late on the East Coast. Yeah, the truth. What's going on, brother? And I say brother in the most non-racist of fashions.
Yo, what's up, guys? Follow me on Twitter, _the truth. I'm fighting at the Good Fight New York Open Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament in 2 weeks. On February 8th, I'm bringing home gold.
Also on tonight's call, he's protecting the mean streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He is Officer Allen. Allen, what's going on? We can find you on Twitter at Westland Eagle AH. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight? It's wonderful to be on the air with you.
Word, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Alan. And last but not least, he actually joined up the call last minute. Hopefully we can keep him on the whole show. He's got a crazy busy life. But Chris Lowe, how the hell are you doing, buddy?
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here, man. It's a great feeling to start a new job, and here I am looking forward to 3 days off, and I couldn't think of a better way to start the first day.
Word, nice to have you on the show as always, Chris. Before we get to the UFC, though, it's actually pretty exciting. This is the first episode we are sponsored. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We got a sponsorship, and they are awaketours.com. Awaketours.com. And you know what? I'm just going to read the live read they gave me before I go into specifics. Calling all UFC and MMA fans. Ever wanted to experience the UFC up close and personal with thousands of other fans just like you? Well, we've got the tour just for you. Join us as we venture through the fabulous Los Angeles and make our way to the ultimate party town of Las Vegas, Nevada on July 4th weekend for a 7-day ultimate UFC experience. Get up close and personal with the stars of the UFC, relax by the pool with the UFC ring girls, and get trained by some of the best names in the industry as we experience all things UFC, MMA, and fighting. That is the live read. It goes from July 1st to July 7th, and we actually have a pretty good deal too. It's normally $4,200. But they're doing a sale. It's going to be $2,000. That's over 50% off. You either can visit www.awaketours.com, find the UFC tour there, use the promo code MMA Podcast, or just send them an email and someone will be happy to get right back with you. The email is info@awaketours.com. Definitely say you heard this on the MMA Podcast, both to help us out and to get that huge price slash. And it actually covers a lot of stuff. It covers a skill and technique session at Eddie Bravo's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in LA, a UFC fighter meet and greet, 7 days of four-star accommodation in LA and Vegas, coach transport everywhere, July 4th weekend viewing party for the UFC event that weekend, open workout seminars, fan expo entry, the press conference, the Octagon Nation truck, the UFC Expo kickoff party, open workout seminars, Las Vegas VIP strip party bus tour, a Los Angeles grand tour, a limited edition MMA illustration tour shirt, all breakfast is included, and some dinners. This like honestly, I sort of want to have sponsors on the show meet two criteria. A, be something that I'd be willing to back. You know, I'm not gonna sell something that's gonna screw over our listeners. And B, I just want cool sponsors, and this is actually really neat. I know our buddy Alan would probably be interested in stuff like this. I think he went to that UFC in Boston, did the VIP experience, and I'm sure he spent more than $2,000, and he still had a great time. So definitely check him out, awaketours.com. The promo code, it's not the MMA Podcast, it's MMA Podcast, and this actually looks like a lot of fun. If I was a richer man, I'd probably do it myself. But check it out. They're really good people. I can attest to that just from speaking to them. And yeah, this tour actually sounds like a lot of fun.
awaketours.com is offering a way for you to train in LA with where Eddie Bravo himself lives, and then go to the Fight Week Expo and all that in Vegas, and it's going to be 50% off.
That's right, Ramses. 50% off. It's going to be $2,000 instead of $4,200, and it really sounds like it's going to be worth all the shit you get included with it. So check them out one more time, awaketours.com. And if you missed it this episode, we'll be reminded you in the next few episodes as well. They're very good people, awaketours.com, or email them at info@awaketours.com. Let's get into the mixed martial arts, and the story we're going to lead off with is a pretty wild story. Chael Sonnen and Wanderlei Silva apparently getting into it at the filming of TUF Brazil 3. Allegedly, you know, we don't want to get anyone in trouble. There obviously is a non-disclosure agreement that most people there got to sign. So for the respect of everyone there, we're gonna say all of this is alleged. But allegedly, you know, we saw the interview with Dana, interviews with Dana, talking about how this is going to be a very contentious season. We've seen Wanderlei talk a lot of shit. We've seen Chael talk a lot of shit. And apparently, according to Dana, the producers just didn't have their leash on both guys tight enough, maybe left them in the same room with one another for too long, and a fight broke out. Allegedly, the story goes that Wanderlei threw the first punches. Chael, like the wrestler he ducked the punches, shot for a double leg, took Wanderlei down. I don't know if Chael punched Wanderlei at all, but one of Wanderlei's goons, this dude Andre Dida, apparently jumped on the back of Chael, punched him a few times in the back of the head, which I just want to note, it really shows the difference between Team Darkside and Vanderlei's team. I couldn't imagine in a million years Vinny or Scott McQuarrie or Clayton, who I've met in person and was like the nicest dude I met in Vegas, Coach Jamie Huey, who we've had on the word on the street dozens of times and talked to, one of the nicest guys around. I couldn't imagine any of these guys starting a fight, any of these guys sucker punching anyone. So it does in a way anger me knowing that my friends, Team Darkside, they're hanging out with a bunch of punks, a bunch of goons, but at the same time, this is a group of killers. I don't worry about them. You have Coach Clayton and Coach Jamie, who really are two of the best boxing trainers in the world. I'm not just pumping them up; they are elite. You obviously have Chael P. Sonnen, one of the most dangerous men on earth. You got Scott McQuarrie, certified badass. You got Vinny Magalhaes, who is the last person I want to go to the ground with. He's always pulling in medals from Abu Dhabi in the World Championships. So, man, I have been ranting on all of this shit enough. The fracas at TUF Brazil, Ramses, I've been itching to hear your opinion. What is the deal with all of this? What is the deal in Brazil? Who is this Dida guy? What's the word on the street?
Dida. Allegedly, he's the son of a bitch that sucker punched Chael in the Brazilian brawl of 2014 that went down today on the filming of TUF Brazil 3. Sonnen versus Silva going down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, people. It went down, in case my best guess, and my sources are telling me that the brawl started because a video came out that the UFC itself released of Chael, just giving a quick tour of the tough situation there in Brazil. Of course, insulting Vanderlei and Silva the entire time, although it was like the truthful insults, And finally, someone got around to actually showing Vanderlei this clip and translating what it said to him. And then that's when shit popped off. I'm told it was greater than the Royal Rumble, which was a huge disappointment last night. This was the Brazilian brawl, people. Nobody was fucking around. There were fists flying. Everybody was kung fu fighting. And word on the street is that Chael was getting the drop, literally, on Vanderlei Silva. And what else? What other reason would there be for someone to come up and sucker punch him? Apparently, 3 times in the back of the head. Andrew Dida, whatever the hell your name is. Like I tweeted earlier, Dido, how's your hand feeling, huh? So, the word is that Chael broke it easier than he broke John Jones' toe with the back of his head. Chael Sonnen ain't no Pedro Nobre, another Brazilian hero. Shit, Dida probably couldn't even take Pedro Nobre with a neck brace on. This guy is a coward. I hope Dana's fueling the jet, making his way down there to just kick his ass out of that tough gym on the spot, on camera. This guy should actually have charges pressed on him. I mean, Jesus, jumping in on a one-on-one fight and starting a brawl like that. Luckily, nobody was seriously injured, but of course, that was all Chael holding back. I mean, otherwise, shit, there'd be a lot of body bags in Brazil tonight, people. But everyone's fine. The Brazilian brawl will air. I believe it will air. Pieces of it, whatever they can salvage, exclusively on the UFC Fight Pass Network. Get yours today. Thank you.
Yeah, the truth. You are the only one on the call who isn't really biased. Ramses, myself, Alan, and by the way, Chris already jumped off. But Ramses, Alan, and myself are all big Sonnen fans. You're kind of riding the fence. You aren't a huge Sonnen fan. You aren't a big Vanderlei fan. What do you think about it? You are a martial artist. What are your thoughts on the fracas at the TUF Brazil 3 filming?
Well, I actually just found out about it from a buddy of mine like about an hour ago. It's ridiculous. I mean, they're on set fighting like they're professional fighters. Why are you fighting for free? I mean, unless they were told like, hey, if you start a fight on set, we'll give you money, like, which I doubt, but why are you fighting for free? Like, you're a professional fighter. Get paid to fight. Don't just fight for no reason, like just because you guys hate each other or whatever. I don't know what caused it, but it's ridiculous. It's unprofessional, and I'm disgusted.
Officer Allen, you were there, or I guess you weren't there, but if you were there, you would have pulled out your gun and showed these Brazilians what's up. Allen, what are your thoughts on all this crazy shit?
Well, first off, I don't really think Chael needs any type of protection. I think he's a big boy and can take care of himself. But I would have liked to have been in on the action. I mean, a fucking dirty Brazilian taking a cheap shot at an American hero. I mean, did we expect anything less from the camp of Vanderlei Silva, Team Donkey Ass? That is the name of Vanderlei's team, Team Donkey Ass. So, once again, they made asses out of themselves by acting in an unprofessional manner. So, yeah, and if this guy Dido ever wants to come out of retirement, I would gladly fly to Brazil and have my first MMA fight professionally against him. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, before we pass it along to the UFC on Fox 10, before we break that card down, I did want to ask y'all, the responses I saw from the fight on Twitter were very varied. I mean, you had a lot of people who were super into it, both Chael and Vanderlei fans. Yeah, fuck him up, beat his ass, blah, blah, blah. You also had people like Yao saying he was disgusted, didn't want to see it, it's not the place for fighting, fight in the cage, not on camera. So, pretty much are you disgusted by all of this going on? Do you not want anything else more to happen? Or would you rather, the fisticuffs keep on flying? Do you like the fact that it's such an emotional season of The Ultimate Fighter?
I'll go ahead and answer first, unless Yao really wants to chime in. But yeah, Chael Sonnen does not fight for free. I mean, he'll fight if he's defending somebody, but in this case, he followed the Joker's advice. If you're good at something, never do it for free. Vanderlei, however, is too stupid to understand that. Either that, or he was trying to get himself disqualified. Writing's on the wall. Apparently, Chael got the drop on him, and the word is that Vanderlei threw the first punch, tried to draw the first blood, and then anytime you have a 2-on-1 situation, I mean, they tried to gang up on Chael. That tells you exactly the type of people you're working with. I mean, this made the Strikeforce brawl look like a squabble at a daycare center, is what I'm hearing. I'm telling you people, man, Chael knows he's there to coach these people and just to get out of there alive. Vanderlei's got the home court, and he's just trying to save as much face as possible, look as tough as possible. And right now, don't be surprised if he pulls out of the fight. Don't be surprised at all, people. He, of course, hopefully, like I said, hopefully Dana's got the jet fueled and ready, headed that way right now to sort this shit out, get it on the UFC Fight Pass, exclusively available right now at UFC.tv, people.
We sort of got Yao's take on it. He's disgusted, so I'll skip him. Alan, what do you think about this? Is it something that you don't want to see anymore, or do you like seeing fireworks, or like hearing about fireworks on the TUF Brazil 3 set?
I mean, I really don't mind words being thrown and insults and, a battle of the minds before the battle of the fist occur. But as far as fighting, yeah, I mean, it's like little children on a playground, and Vanderlei is the big bully that, you know, is picking on people until he picks on the wrong fucking person, who's Chael Sonnen, who's not going to back down. And, you know, apparently Vanderlei found out that he can handle himself. So I think it's, you know, fucking schoolyard stuff. But if somebody, you know, somebody gets in your face, you got to do what you got to do. You got to, you know, defend yourself, defend your friends, defend your family. You know, you don't back down from anybody, but, you know, don't ever throw the first punch. Just make sure you throw the last. I definitely don't think we need to see any more of, you know, any type of like fistic encounters on any Ultimate Fighter shows, because all that's going to really do is throw in a little bit of shock, you know, value, but it's going to deter, you know, the other part of the audience that they're trying to attract, which is the casual viewer. You know, it's just going to make it look like it's some mediocre, you know, season 1 of the Ultimate Fighter, basically. And I just personally don't think that it's very classy, and it's not something that we need in 2014.
I agree with you, Alan. And it was actually at this point during the podcast where we had to take a break. I've been recording all of my own segments the day after, because while we were live, it was fucking up my voice. It was making me echo both on Ustream and the recording. So this is the moment in the show where we took a quick break. I restarted my shit, and then a few minutes later we got back on the Ustream to break down everything in mixed martial arts. Love the shit out of you people. Let's get back to mixed martial arts, cocksuckers. And we are back live. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to our boy, MMA Enthusiast. If it wasn't for him pointing it out, we would have just done the entire show where I was echoing back and forth, and I would have had to re-record everything I said. But now, luckily, I'll just need to re-record just a few parts of what I said. And if you're listening to the iTunes version and you're wondering what it sounded like live, this is what it sounded like live. Joined today by 4 people I would all call friends of mine. Yeah, it sounded pretty fucked up. So thanks a lot to MMA Enthusiast. If you're a dumb fuck and you don't know how to spell the word enthusiast, that's ENTHUSIAST, MMA_enthusiast. He's a cool motherfucker. And yeah, we are back now. Yao, I think like overdosed or something when we were off the air. So it's only me and Alan and Ramses, and we're gonna jump right into the UFC on Fox 10 breakdown. Thompson versus Ben Henderson. A lot of people thought it was a robbery. Sal D'Amato somehow gave Bendo a 49-46, but we're going to talk about that at the very end. First and foremost, let's start off with the prelims. We had, I believe we had 1 fight on the Fight Pass, and we had 6 fights air on Fox Sports 1. The Fight Pass card was an upset. Nikita Krylov defeating Walt Harris in the first round. Only 25 seconds of fights on the Fight Pass, because that's how quick it took Krylov to head kick and finish Walt Harris, the big ticket, via punches. And he was actually, I think, the biggest underdog on the entire card. So shout out to I think his nickname is Al Capone or something. Let's get to the Fox Sports 1 prelims. Another upset. George Sullivan defeating Mike Biggie Rhodes via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board, all 3 judges. My boy, Darren Cruikshank, beating Mike Rio via wheel kick and punches. Knocked him senseless with 4 seconds to go in the second round. You'll hear more about him in my beatdown of the month. Hugo Viana defeating Junior Hernandez via unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. Chico Camus defeating Yautzin Mesa via unanimous decision, 30-27 and 29-28 from the other 2 judges. And the last 2 fights were like the last 2 bantamweight bouts. Eddie Wineland looking crisp as hell against Yves Jabouin, winning via second round TKO. And finally we had Alex Caceres stopping the fight with only 20 seconds to go there in the third round, defeating Sergio Pettis via rear naked choke, getting $100,000 for submission of the night and fight of the night. What did you guys think of these 7 fights? What stood out to you? For me, Cruikshank, I mean, man, he looked great with that wheel kick TKO. Eddie Wineland, obviously, who was fighting a Eves who looked very, very game. He obviously had planned for the power punching of Wineland and was using his footwork very expertly. And finally, Alex Caceres, he looked like he was two weight classes bigger than Pettis. I think Pettis should maybe think about moving back down to flyweight where he was in RFA before he came over to the UFC. But yeah, what did you guys think of this one, Alan?
I thought the fights were really good. I really enjoyed seeing Darren Cruikshank get back in the win column. It goes to show you that, you know, whenever he lets his tools, you know, fly, like he lets loose and he doesn't hold back, you know, how dangerous he can be. I mean, he's some of the strikes that he can throw, like with his taekwondo background, are just they're crazy, man. I mean, the kick that he landed wasn't even a solid heel kick. He landed with the toes and almost knocked Rio out. I mean, that right there tells you. I mean, and the spinning attacks that he has, they're just phenomenal. So it was awesome to see him get the win. The Chico Camus fight, I think that he's just, you know, him being an undersized bantamweight, it works to his advantage because he's just so much, you know, quicker in the transitions, and he doesn't gas. You know, he's in there the whole fight. You know, I don't like the guy because he got a freaking decision over somebody that I really believed he lost to, but you know, he looked really good against a much larger opponent. Eddie Wineland looked crisp. Jabouin is always a game fighter. Hugo Vienna looked really sharp for the first 2 rounds of that fight. He kind of gassed out because he was throwing so many power punches, but I mean, he just needs to take it slowly, step by step, and work his way up, and we'll see how far Vienna can go. And then, yeah, Caceres and Pettis. Pettis is, you know, visibly, he's a flyweight. I mean, there's no question, ands, ifs, or buts about it. The dude doesn't belong fighting at you know, bantamweight. He needs to be fighting at flyweight. He did a good job in his first fight, but even fighting I forget who he fought his first fight, the Will kid. I don't remember his last name, but he's just too small, man. You can tell that whenever he lands a good strike, it might be like a, you know, a deadly impactful fight. I mean, strike that would end a fight at flyweight, but at bantamweight with these bigger guys, it's just not going to knock him out. You know, he's a tiny guy. So, you know, he was looking like he was on his way to possibly winning that fight. And then with 20 seconds, you know, in the fight getting subbed out, it's kind of disappointing. But, you know, he's a young guy. He's 20 years old. It's his first loss. I think he's going to learn a lot from it. I think he's going to be better because of this fight, because he lost, than if he would have, you know, eked out a victory. So, you know, I was really impressed. I thought the card was much better than advertised. I thought it delivered, you know, on every level.
Yeah, I thought top to bottom it was definitely an entertaining card. Ramses, you watched the prelims. Did anything stand out for you?
I actually did watch the prelims, and I guess there was only one prelim on the Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass, available now at UFC.tv. Krylov versus, I don't even remember his name, but all I had to do was look at the odds. Something seemed off for some reason. Krylov was a 3 to 4 to 1 underdog in the books, even though the records matched up. So I smelled a rat and I laid down $38 on Krylov, paid off 3.5 times that amount. He was part of a parlay which got fucked up by you know, Bruce Leroy and Alex Caceres' win over Pettis, Sergio Pettis, which honestly Bruce Leroy was supposed to lose that one. I mean, just on paper, he was supposed to lose it. Damn shame, but Sergio's just gonna learn from it, come back stronger than ever. You know, it's not like he got knocked out or anything. He just got choked, and that's the only move that Bruce Lee had. And Yeah. Shout out to Crookshank for finally pulling the trigger. I was afraid that he was just going to be shying away from it as usual, and hopefully, he listened to a lot of people's advice there. Don't be afraid to throw something hard. Yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's going to hurt the other guy worse. And he did it. Overall, I like the prelims this time around, even though this was a weak card on paper. But, hell, no complaints here.
Word, yeah, I don't think you found much complaints out of any of us. Let's move on to the first fight on that main card. Jeremy Stephens versus Darren Elkins. I thought it was 30-27 Stephens. Two of the judges agreed with me. One thought it was 29-28, probably giving him the third round, which was a little bit closer of a round. Jeremy Stephens looked good, but I thought more than anything, Darren Elkins just looked horrible, and I don't dislike him, whatsoever. I think he's definitely had some pretty good wins against guys like Dwayne Ludwig, Diego Brandao, Hatsuhioki, and really the one glaring loss on his record in the last couple of years had been Chad Mendez, and I don't know if he just didn't have a good training camp. Maybe he was sick during the fight. It was in a very cold Chicago atmosphere. But Darren Elkins just did not look like he wanted to be in that fight. His footwork was non-existent. And yeah, I thought Stephens looked good, but I don't like to fighter bash at all, and I'm not trying to fighter bash, but it just was a fight where Elkins, to me at least, was not putting on a performance that looked like he wanted to be in the cage with the other guy. Ramses, what do you think about this one?
Sorry, 1 second. Let me turn off Dana White here. He's on Fox Sports Live right now talking about the brawl, but we can... Hold on, let me mute that up. I'm sorry, Jake. I apologize.
It's all good. You gotta DVR that shit, son.
It's breaking, man. It's breaking. I was trying to catch it, bring something to the show last minute. Can you repeat your question in the form of 140 characters?
Stephens Elkins, what'd you think of the fight?
Oh, yeah. Jeremy Stephens definitely.
Well, wait. First, is Dana White still talking? Because if he is, fucking turn it up and let's listen to Dana live here. I hope the audio isn't complete shit, but yeah, fuck it. Let's listen to a little bit of Dana.
Let me mic it. All right, yeah, here we go.
He applies for the Nevada State Athletic Commission job. If he applied at Kinko's, he wouldn't get the job. But he's going to run the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Can't help but laugh at that.
Interesting.
Okay, we'll leave it right there. Next up, the internet went crazy. Our colleague here at Fox Sports, Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva, they're down in Brazil. What can you tell us? What happened? The internet just exploded with this fight between the two?
Well, obviously, it's a reality show, so I can't talk a lot about it, but I can tell you this. They got into a huge... All hell broke loose down there today, and worse than anything that has ever happened on any season of The Ultimate Fighter.
I don't want to be in the middle of that.
Yeah.
But we'll look forward to watching it. Can you give us who started it? Can you give us that? Do you even know?
Well, the history with these guys is they hate each other. They don't like each other. Anytime they're even in the room, it's actually amazing that it took this long. And I truly believe that our producers down there got a little careless and left them in the room alone together, and this thing broke out.
I can't imagine being on the other end of that phone call. Yeah.
Fun.
Okay.
Fun.
GSP, in all seriousness, George St-Pierre, he had some harsh things to say about the UFC's drug policy, even went so far as to say, quote, monopoly. And you said on the show that he needs to be a man, pick up the phone and call you. Why do you think he hasn't called you?
I don't know. I know that he's upset because I thought Johnny Hendricks won the fight, the championship fight. Yeah, he's upset. The George St-Pierre thing, George St-Pierre has been an amazing guy to deal with over the last 10 years. Nobody...
Yeah, did you see this coming?
No.
Yeah.
And nobody has said more good things about George St-Pierre over the last 10 years than me.
Where's it come from?
I don't know. He said it. He's upset. Believe me.
What's the perfect ending for you in this situation?
I've had guys that I've battled with throughout the entire history of the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
George St-Pierre has been a model champion, fighter, representative of the sport and of his country. And, we don't see eye to eye right now. It happens sometimes. No big deal.
Dana White, always a pleasure. Thank you
Likewise.
for joining us here. UFC 160.
Word on the street. Dana
There
White
you
talking
have
on
it,
Fox
people.
Sports
Hopefully
1.
you caught that. It came through all right.
It came through perfectly. Yeah. Talking about Roy, Chael, and GSP.
Yes, sir.
Before you
That
break
was
down
Dana White
Steven
saying
Zelkin's...
Brazilian brawl was the worst he's ever seen on any season of
That is
TUF.
wild. Said he left him in the room. Look, you do not leave a couple pit bulls in the same room as one another and leave them unsupervised, or shit's gonna start popping off.
Hello, anybody got me? Oh shit.
Yes.
Okay,
we
there
can
we
hear
go.
you.
But
Yo,
that all came through, right? Sorry, my speaker got unplugged, turning my mic towards my television set.
Honestly, I couldn't think of a worse group of people to start a fight with than, think about it, Chael Sonnen, trained fucking murderer, Clayton Hires beat Floyd Mayweather's dad, one of the best,
The old man's dad.
seriously. I mean, I am not just talking him up and saying what's not true. Clayton Hires is one of the best boxing trainers in the world. So you have Clayton Hires, you have Jamie Huey, who is another world-class elite boxing trainer. You have Scott McQuarrie, who's a fucking badass. You have Vinny, who if anything goes to the ground, I mean, Vinny is constantly winning medals in Abu Dhabi. I mean, that is a well-rounded group of fucking murderers.
No kidding, man. Especially Clayton Hires, man. The things this man had to do. Yeah, it's a hard subject area to broach, but if you knew what I knew, Clayton Hires has done more for this country than President Bush, Obama, Clinton, Donald Rumsfeld combined, and Rambo.
If I could have any three people from history in my corner in an MMA match, it would be Jesus, obviously. Second, I would probably have to say George Washington. And third would be Clayton Hires. I mean, that would be the perfect corner. Alan, if you could have three people to corner you, who would it be? Obviously, the first would be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No, I wouldn't take Van Damme, just because I know better. I'm not going to expound on that, but no, Clayton Hires would definitely be one of the people I would want in my corner. I would also take Kelvin Gastelum. And then as my third and final choice, I'd probably have to say I'd take Brock Lesnar.
Hell yeah, he'll run in and drop an F5 if you start getting fucked up. Ramsey's three people. The first one's probably going to be Alex Jones. Go.
Actually, my first choice would, of course, be none other than Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey. For one, Team Son and coach right now in Brazil.
Would one of them be Dida?
He survived. Oh, Dido's done, man. He can kiss his ass career. Any UFC dream he ever had, goodbye. You just tried to sucker punch and brain damage one of their best pay-per-view draws. You're done, son. Hope it was worth it. If it was you, Dida, you son of a bitch. Let's see. So I'd have Coach Jamie Huey, and you know what? Because they gave me a retweet, got me a lot of followers today. Definitely KG, Kelvin Gastelum, guest on my show numerous times, and Tony Pettis, current champion. Definitely those three guys.
That's right, Tony P. All right, well let's get back on track. We were talking about UFC on Fox 10, breaking down Stevens versus Elkins. I said Elkins was just not looking very game. Did you watch it? It wasn't the most most exciting fight I've ever seen. What'd you think about Stevens Elkins, Ramses?
Jeremy Stevens looked pretty damn good. But I mean, he's definitely a guy that swings away with nothing. Well, not with nothing, but I mean, he swings away with everything is the problem until he's got nothing left. But in this case, it worked out for him. It's kind of a hit or miss formula with his technique, to tell you the truth. But he was hungry. He went for it. He got it. And yeah, something seemed a little off about Elkins. It was probably just quick early power punch that we're all disregarding here. But Jeremy Stevens definitely getting the street cred back. I was against him when he was, going up against my Thug Jiu-Jitsu master, Eve Edwards, who did knock him out with the counter punch. But Elkins, easier opponent, easy win. Good on you, Jeremy Stevens. I'll bet on him on the next one, too.
Alan, what'd you think of the fight that led off this main card?
I think for the casual viewer, it was really entertaining to watch. Stevens is out there doing the typical, throwing punches, hard-nosed, farm boy, just rough housing, just trying to get in there and bang, and that's really good for the casual viewer. Like you guys pointed out, Elkins, I've watched all of his fights. He's beat some of my, favorites, and I think that something did look off. I don't know if it was that he got hit and just was afraid of getting hit, and Stevens just threw him off his game plan. But he definitely didn't look like the normal Elkins, and I would have liked to have seen it be a more competitive match. Stevens kind of gassed out at the end of the third round, and I don't know. It was good for what it was. It could have been better. I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I definitely agree. I think something was up with Elkins. Maybe an injury. Maybe he was sick. I don't know. But he didn't look like himself in that fight against Darren Stevens. We'll move on. Lightweight match. Donald Cerrone taking on Adriano Martins, who didn't look horrible for the first round. Started the fight with a nice hard kick to the body. But Cerrone just showed that he was another level of fighter. From the pocket, he just lands this right high kick, and just the shit. It was perfectly placed. He dropped dead. As it happened, I tweet out R.I.P. to Martins and condolences to his family. He went down really brutally. Just all sense of consciousness escaped his body, and he fell down limp. What did you think of Cerrone beating Martins, and more importantly, who would you like next for Donald Cerrone, who says he wants to fight 6 times this year, Alan?
I always look forward to seeing Donald Cerrone fight. It was a pleasure watching him fight in Vegas and finish Evan Dunham in a really tough, hard, gritty performance. This fight, I was actually kind of worried about him because Martins, however you say his name, actually matches up really well with Cerrone. And, because he's not bad on his feet and he's deadly on the ground, and he's a big guy, he's not a small guy. So I was kind of worried at first, but after we got in there and Donald started throwing the kicks, and I saw what he was doing. He was throwing the body shots. He was he totally played Martins. He set up that head kick perfectly. He never, not one time, threw a high kick. He kept chipping away with the body kicks and the low kicks, and then bam, first one he threw to the head, right on cue. It was like clockwork. Donald Cerrone. As far as who I think he should fight next, I have a feeling that they're gonna have him fight Khabib, because nobody else wants to fight the Eagle. I don't really like that matchup for Cerrone, but if anybody could fight Khabib, I think Cerrone would put up a really good fight because Cerrone's really comfortable off his back when he gets taken down. And that's something a lot of fighters, wouldn't be as comfortable with, when Nurmagomedov takes him down. So that's an interesting fight. And I definitely, if he wants to fight again in another, month and a half, 2 months, I definitely see the UFC throwing that together. I think Khabib said that he wants to fight around May or June.
You are getting called in, Alan. 187.
Alan is a ham radio operator, so just for anybody listening, wondering what that is in the background, he's an aficionado when it comes to the ham radio. 7-3.
I'm good.
Word, yeah. You bring up Nurmagomedov, and the three people I was actually going to bring up that I'd like to see Cerrone fight next are Khabib, Bobby Green, and maybe Jim Miller. Green and Miller coming off wins against Pat Healy and Fabricio Comace, respectively. Ramses, what do you think about Donald Cerrone? Will he fight 6 times this year? Who should he fight next? What is the goddamn palabra on the street?
6 times in a year is a little ridiculous. But if anybody was going to do it, it'd be Donald Cerrone. I do again apologize for my broke-ass mountain tweets. Obviously, his fans got upset with me about that. But, he's got, 100K plus win bonus now. He'll fix up that mountain. He'll buy some new gadgets. And, hopefully he does that. He makes some spontaneous buys. Because that's the only thing that's going to keep driving him to fight 5 more times this year. It's outrageous. I would definitely bet against it. But this fight was awesome. I got to say, for once he lands a real head kick KO. Because in case you haven't heard my take, the Cowboy Cerrone head kick of Melvin Gillard was glancing. It was a Crow Cop Pride style work. I think it was fake. But this one, 100% real. So congrats to the Cowboy. Get off broke-ass mountain. You're back in the win column in my book. That's the word on the street.
Word. Let's move on to a heavyweight match where unfortunately, Gabe Gonzaga broke his hand, I think, in the first round. He sent out pictures of it. It was looking real nasty. He ended up losing the fight to Stipe Miocic, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. Like usual, I want to ask the question, what did you guys think of the fight? It was a very plodding fight. There weren't many real crazy moments. It definitely wasn't the best fight on the card, but Stipe, definitely looking good, coming off 2 straight wins now via unanimous decision, where he had just outstruck Roy and outstrike Gabe Gonzaga, who are 2 difficult guys to outstrike. And who do you want next for Stipe? Looking at the heavyweight picture, you obviously have Cormier moving down. You have Brown and Verdum fighting in April. You have Kane on the shelf for a while. You have Bigfoot, who's out for a year because he tested positive for roids. You have Reem, who's fighting Frank Mir next month. I would either like the winner of Reem versus Mir or Mark Hunt to fight Stipe next. I think that would make the most sense. I would throw the War Master Josh Barnett in there too, but the UFC typically doesn't like to put guys who won in their last fight against guys who lost in their last fight, and that would definitely be the case with those two. Ramses, what'd you think of the fight, and what's next for the American? Everyone acts like Stipe isn't an American, but I believe the dude was born in Ohio or something. So
perfect English.
Yeah, just because he has a funky name and his family is Croatian doesn't mean he isn't an American. But what next for the American, Stipe Miocic?
Well, I gotta say, man, the fact that he played it safe against Gonzaga tells me he was probably not too confident, telling me he was probably a little bit injured, something like that. Of course, when you're at the heavyweight level, it's just a matter of who lands first. So I don't blame him for that. And in a way, kind of Gonzaga wins too. I mean, he didn't get knocked out or destroyed. That's big. That's big because it was Gonzaga, man. The odds are ridiculous. What's next for Stipe Miocic, or however the hell you say his last name? I gotta say, man, you didn't mention him. I say put him up again with his record, which is actually a damn good one, which I wish I knew offhand. I'm training for a rematch against Ross Finkelstein.
I think he's got one loss, and that's to Stefan Struve.
Yeah, one loss. I say put him against Junior Dos Santos. That's my call. Word on the street.
Alan, what's the word?
Is Mark Hunt hurt?
I'm not sure. He may have hurt his hand in that fight.
If Mark Hunt's not hurt and
I don't
he's
think he's
available,
hurt. He's just scared, bro.
I would prefer to see Miocic take on Mark Hunt. I'd like to see him fight another power, somebody with power, test his chin a little bit because he's been hit a couple of times. I mean, he got KO'd by Stefan Struve. That's not supposed to happen. Stefan Struve's not supposed to knock people out. So, he tends to gas as fights go on. If they do go to a decision, he's a freak of a physical specimen. He's not too big at heavyweight. He's not too small. He's like that perfect in the middle, athletic. He's the perfect build for a heavyweight, contender. I don't want to throw him in there in deep water with, the number 2 heavyweight in the world, JDS. I think JDS knocks him out. But I'd like to see him get a couple of more fights, fight a couple of more seasoned guys. Maybe have him fight Mark Hunt, and then maybe the winner of Overeem and Mir, because whoever wins that fight is gonna take 6 months off. So Miocic could fight one time in between, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting because you got all these heavyweight fights that are happening, and it's weeding out, to where we're going to end up with like 3 or 4 guys that are going to be the top 5, the new top 5 in the heavyweight division. And it's going to be interesting to see who wins these upcoming fights and who ends up in that top 5 and, starts challenging for the titles.
Word. Well, now we're at the main event. What I teased at the top, Benson Henderson defeating Josh Thompson via split decision, 48-47, 47-48, and the bizarre 49-46 Bendo card submitted by Sal D'Amato. Yet another controversial split decision win for Benson Henderson. What's really crazy, the guy is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He could easily be 1-4 because the fights against Gilbert Melendez, Josh Thompson, and Frankie Edgar were all fights that a lot of people thought he lost. What are your thoughts? Did you also think it was a robbery? We've seen so many non-satisfying main events of late. I mean, you had Thompson versus Bendo, which wasn't satisfied because Thompson got robbed. You had Weidman versus Silva 2, which, I'm glad Weidman won. I was rooting for him, but it wasn't very satisfying to see the greatest of all time on the ground screaming in pain. You had UFC 167, which Hendricks was robbed of a decision. What did you think about the fight? How did you score it? Did you think it was a robbery? I actually scored it 4-1, which is 49-46 with the 10-9 for Josh Thompson. Everyone I saw on Twitter either had it 4-1 Thompson or 3-2 Thompson. I think I saw a couple 3-2 Bendos, which I guess I got. But to say that Benson won 4 of those rounds, in my eyes, Thompson won 2 rounds very clearly. Benson won 1 round pretty clearly, and the other 2 I thought were close, and I gave them to Josh. For those 2 rounds, I could see scoring them either way, maybe giving it a 3-2 Benson, but Sal D'Amato puts in another horrible scorecard. What did you guys think of this? Alan?
I just wanted to slap Sal D'Amato in the fucking face. I'm not so upset that Benson won the fight, okay? Let's just throw that out there right now. I don't dislike Benson Henderson. I don't really, care a whole lot about Josh Thompson. But when a judge, clearly his scorecard doesn't depict what happened or took place in that fight, and the other two judges, obviously didn't, have the same cards as D'Amato, it drives me nuts to see a guy like that continue to work, because like you said, there's no way that Benson Henderson won 4 rounds. If you go back and look at the stats, okay, Benson Henderson landed like 114 total strikes, and Josh Thompson only landed 33. Significant strikes, it was 46 significant strikes by Benson Henderson to 19 by Thompson. And both guys only had 4 takedowns. But Josh Thompson had 8 minutes of control. Benson had 5 minutes of control. If you look at just the numbers, it's a lot closer fight. It actually, looks more clear as far as Benson winning the fight if you just look at the numbers. But if you watch the fight, it was a grappling match. And Josh Thompson clearly won the grappling match throughout the entire fight. He had the better positions, more control time. I understand he didn't do a whole lot of damage, but Benson Henderson didn't do any damage. I don't know. It's just aggravating seeing a judge continually, scoring fights like this. The opposite of what the other judges are scoring, and, continually do this to main event fights like this. It's just insane. You can't blame Benson Henderson for any of this. You can say that he's a grinder, he's not a finisher, but you really can't hate on the guy because he goes in there, he implements a game plan, and he sticks to it, and you're not him, sometimes you can finish a fight, sometimes you can't. You can't blame a guy for not finishing a fight. Sometimes it just can't be done. The way I look at it is that there was 2 really good grapplers going at it, and that Josh Thompson was just slightly better. And, Benson, just didn't know what to do with him. It was a great match to me, but I think the Sal D'Amato scorecard kind of just mars the outcome of the fight. If it would have been 48-47, 48-47, and then 48-47 for Thompson, 2 for Benson, both being, correct scorecards, and then 1 for Thompson, then it'd have been all right. But just seeing that one judge scored the fight completely different than any other person in the media, because I think only 2 people in the media scored the fight for Benson, and like 10 people scored it for Thompson. It's just aggravating. It's killing the sport. It really is killing the sport. It's bad press. It kills the fan base, the morale. It's just bad for business, and I just think it hurt the fight really badly.
Powerful words, Alan. What'd you think, Ramses?
Yeah, he's pretty much summing it up. But yeah, I do want to call the police and report a robbery here. Bendo. He pretty much. The only thing that was missing was him, handing a note to the judges, the "give me all your money" note. But that's just because of the Sal D'Amato, the obviously outrageous scoring on his part. That's the only reason I'm calling it a robbery. Otherwise, breaking down the fight myself, I gotta be honest, and like I said on Twitter, I honestly would have, if I were a judge, I would have scored that fight a draw. Except Vegas doesn't like draws, all right, people. And I thought we were supposed to. I know he's not officially out yet, but for all intents and purposes, Keith Kaiser is out of the picture. You would think judging would start to turn around a little bit, catch the hint. This is the first indicator that's going to be business as usual. Definitely should have been a draw at the very least. But honestly, Thompson, a little criticism here. He was already talking retirement before the fight. Between every round, he kept mentioning his hand was broken. We heard you the first time, all right. So maybe if it
Were you
wasn't for
talking
that,
about Josh or talking about Rogan? Because during the telecast, Rogan and Goldie mentioned the fact that he had a broken hand probably 87,000 times.
yeah, on the stool, I keep my shit up loud when I'm watching, and yeah, on the stool, Thompson said to the same trainer in 2 different rounds sitting there that his hand was broken, and it's like, yeah, man, we heard you the first time. So maybe that little ounce of confidence he lost is what cost him the fight. And damn, it's a damn shame that happened, because I honestly wanted to see Benson Henderson get knocked out like it was the movie Friday, but maybe next time. Either way, good entertaining fight. But Thompson, man, don't retire. Give it one more. Give it at least one more. Word.
Yeah, he was talking about retiring a little bit. We will listen to him talk about that. We're going to play the highlights of the UFC post-fight presser in just a second. But first, and this is a very, very serious topic, is Benson Henderson a part of the Illuminati? A lot of whisperings were going on after the fight. Look, we know a few certain things to be true. On a few of Benson's walkout shirts, he has a pyramid on it. Whenever he wins, he makes a pyramid with his hands. He claims to be a devout Christian, but goes to a strange island to pray to Moloch, the owl god, every year. We know his fight against Edgar. I think Frankie won that. But at the same time, I was kind of smirking as a Penn fan to see Edgar get robbed after he robbed Penn of the belt. But that's a whole nother thing. He robbed Gilbert Melendez of the belt. He robbed Josh Thompson of a title shot. The question is very simple, Ramses. Is Benson Henderson a part of the Illuminati?
That all depends, people. He definitely is aware of who his true master might be. I'd have to say that. I've heard from numerous sources that his manager does actually perform satanic rituals before every one of his fighters fights. Yes, allegedly, he performs satanic rituals and prayers before each of his fighters steps into the ring. And of course, you never know which judges or, if they worship money, it only stands to reason that you would worship Lucifer himself. Benson Henderson, he might be like the movies, like Keanu Reeves from the movie Devil's Advocate, where he represents the criminals and crooks and tries to tell himself he's not working for the devil, but eventually he finds out that his own father is Satan himself. What more else? Just watch, people. He lost that belt, though. So it all came back around. I don't think he ever gets it back. And for that reason, the one whose name is greater than all, praise him, praise his name. In Jesus' name we pray, I guess. I don't know what the fuck.
Look, I have a reliable source. His name's Fatal Tito, and he told me without a doubt that Benson in 2012, the 21st of December, 2012, 12/21/12, what a lot of people thought would be doomsday, Benson and all the world leaders went to a secret island off the coast of Cyprus in South America to, let's just say, discuss things. Alan, is Benson a part of the Illuminati? Oh no.
I have no comment on this topic.
That's right. He knows too much. He's already a part of it.
He's part of the system. Yep.
That's right.
Everyone's around you.
So we will move on from talking about whether Benson is in the Illuminati. Really quick, we do have a bit of news to talk about, but I want to play the highlights from the press conference. We got a lot of interesting bits, a lot of funny comments from Donald Cerrone, but it actually started off. Most press conferences are are hosted, so to speak, by Dana White. This time it was Dave Scholler who wanted to start the conference out with some numbers and facts from the card, along with some Super Bowl planning contingency plans. Let's listen to Dave Scholler.
Fight of the night, Bruce Leroy and Pettis. KO of the night, Donald Cerrone. And submission of the night, Bruce Leroy, $50K. You are no longer broke. Before we get to the press conference questions, a couple of questions that popped up throughout the night about the Super Bowl and our event, so I do want to address that situation. As you know, next weekend is UFC 169 in Newark. We're keeping an eye on what happens with the Super Bowl in the event of bad weather. We're coming up with a contingency plan as a result. If, and only if, they move the Super Bowl to Saturday, we will move UFC 169 to Sunday. It obviously requires a lot of coordination with the venue, the fighters, and our TV production crews around the world. So again, we'll be monitoring the situation very closely. We will only make the change should the Super Bowl move.
Next, we got to Benson Henderson, who wanted to talk about his controversial victory over former Strikeforce champion Josh Thompson.
Hey, getting a W inside the UFC. Let's see how you do it and see how you take it. I like W's. I like getting my hand raised. I'll take it any way I can get it. You slip it on a banana peel by the skin of my teeth, by any means, you know.
The Gilbert
and Josh Thompson also had some thoughts about the fight.
That to me was a close fight, but I can see how it went either way. This fight, I felt like I won. And I won with one hand. I beat the former UFC champion, who's a guy who was here for 2 years, and I beat him with one hand. That's what I can't stomach. I'm a better fighter. That's what pisses me off.
Is this your last fight?
I don't know. I can't tell you right now. I'm pretty emotional, as you can tell.
Right. So you're going to take some time to just regroup. And
next, we got to UFC bantamweight Eddie Wineland, who had an impressive TKO in the second round. He's actually been on the show before. Let's hear what Eddie had to say about the fight.
Yeah, I mean, the title fight is water under the bridge at this point. Just keep paddling the boat, and that's exactly what this fight was. You know, get in the guy's face, keep pressing forward, make it my fight. And I wanted the fight to end on the ground. I wanted to show people that I do possess ground game. I do possess ground and pound. I can control my opponents on the ground. So it wasn't a perfect fight, but I was happy with the outcome.
And second to last, we had in the prelims, Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres beat Sergio Pettis. And here was Bruce Leroy's comments on the fight.
Definitely. It was definitely a great victory over a guy that had a lot of hype coming into this fight. And he definitely lived up to his name. You know, he was an excellent striker, tough dude, all over. You know, definitely caught a couple head kicks for that 2 bonus checks. But it feels good to win this money. I want to put it to work and put it to some good use. I feel pretty good about not spending it frivolously. I want to be able to invest it into something that might grow later on in the future.
And actually, he expanded on that, speaking with Ariel a little bit later. I think it was with Ariel, and said he actually wants to buy a little plot of land and get like a self-sufficient farm with like solar panels and, you know, stuff he's growing and stuff. Very, very interesting character, Bruce Leroy, but definitely the most quotable person at the UFC on Fox 10 post-fight press conference was lightweight Donald Cerrone, coming off that head kick knockout win against Adriano Martins, where he also got $50,000 for winning knockout of the night.
Cowboy, quick question for you. Henderson already said that he doesn't really want to have a fight with you, but you've got nothing but upward momentum right now. So let's say Dana White makes that call. Are you taking that fight?
Yeah, I don't say. With Benson?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Come on, maybe. Yeah.
Come on.
You don't say no. We just went over that.
Right, but
I'll
at
whip
the same
that
time,
too, so he knows.
You guys have this friendship. You know, you have this rivalry where you make bets on the Super Bowl and everything. So
which we need to talk about. We need to bring that up.
Here we go.
We didn't do a little. Yeah, we didn't know eyebrows didn't grow back, so we're gonna have to renegotiate this. We have a lifestyle change forever. So I mean, look how ugly this dude will be when the Broncos smash. So. Yeah, we're gonna think of something else and figure out. Maybe Benson will shave his head and I'll grow my hair. We'll figure something out.
Talking about that Super Bowl coming up, Broncos taking on the Seahawks. our boy Alan is stepping out, so it's going to be me and Ramses for a hot second till Alan gets back. So let us transfer from breaking down UFC on Fox 10 to the news. This bit of news I wanted to talk about. Joe Rogan talking a lot of mad shit about Beatus or Cletus. Is it Beatus or Cletus? Because the UFC has had these stupid robots as like their mascots. But for a football, they've brought it over into the UFC, and normally it's just been a digital mascot. But they actually brought in like a 7-foot giant robot-looking mascot that I would have been so pissed if I had floor seats and there was this 7-foot tall robot mascot walking around blocking my fucking view of the entire fight. But Rogan did not seem to be a fan of, is it Cletus or Beatus, Ramses?
Well, it's Cletus if it's Fox Sports, NFL. I don't even know what else they're popular for, really. But the NFL robot is Cletus. And it was Cletus on UFC Tonight. But apparently, according to Mike Goldberg yesterday during the broadcast, the red robot is actually Beatus, the robot, not Cletus. Beatus. You see what they did there? Ha ha.
Because Beatus, like it's fighting, so you like beat people.
Yeah, Beatus, and then and you saw I tweeted out a picture of Beatus the robot with two of my women, Ariane and Brittany, which is, I'm not gonna lie, I come home to them ass in the air, and that's the first thing they say to me. So they named him after that. Thank God for Beatus the robot. I hope he's here to stay. I for one like him. Rogan just has that fear of machines or robots. I forget what the technical term is, but he has that. But robot fights are actually the future. And Anderson Silva's titanium leg is just the beginning, people. He's you're gonna see the $6 billion man fighting soon, and I'm not talking about Chael. He's only got 5.
When will we have a heavyweight cyborg division in the UFC?
That's a good question. I guess. Obviously they're gonna keep patching Anderson Silva up. Dana White declaring he's ready. He's gonna actually match in your prediction, Jake, that Silva will fight before the end of this year, which is ridiculous. No real doctor would recommend this under any certain circumstances whatsoever on a 38-year-old man. But if it's someone else, if someone cuts you a giant check, of course, it's a different story. But Beatus the robot is shit.
If say the UFC is paying for a really expensive doctor, shit, he'll wheel him back out for a fight on the same night.
You're damn right, and he'll be wearing a lab coat, and just to make it official. But Beatus is here to stay, people. You heard it first.
Alan is actually back. I have a question, Alan. What do you Beatus?
Beatus, my Beatus.
That's right. Alan's beat us in his meet us in all fucking day. Let's listen to what Joe Rogan had to say about Beatus the robot. And that was a little shitty quality because Vine's acting weird tonight. But if you heard it well, it was Rogan saying, throw that thing in the garbage. He is not a fan. And the question I want to ask both of you, Joe Rogan, former national champion in Taekwondo, a video was released where he literally spinning sidekicked a dude in the chest and killed him. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trains under Jean-Jacques Machado and Eddie Bravo. Who do you take in a fight between Joe Rogan and Beatus the Robot? Alan?
I got Joe Rogan. Fuck Beatus. Get that shit the fuck out.
I have Rogan by leg lock. Ramses, what's your call?
I gotta say, man, having gone toe to toe with Iron Man, I know that people in a robot suit, once you get them on the ground, they have no response. They cannot even get back up to their feet. Even if you're not on them, it's all over. That's the trick to beating any cyborg or robot. Shout out to RoboCop, the new movie coming out next month, the remake. It'll probably be a huge disappointment, but you know, if we can take Beatus, we can take anything. Word
on the street. We'll move on. Dana White, we heard him talk about a few things. One thing we didn't hear him talk about was Chris Weidman, and he was speaking with reporters recently. This was reported on BleacherReport.com. If Weidman beats Belfort, he's the best. How is he not number one pound for pound in the world if he beats Vitor? It's impossible not to call him number one pound for pound guy. Currently, he's obviously up there in the top 5, lingering around there with Cain Velasquez, Renan Barão, Demetrius Johnson. Just about everyone has Jones and Aldo 1 and 2. But to say Weidman is number one pound for pound, I mean, everyone has a different definition. A lot of people like to say they base pound for pound on if everyone was the same size and weight, who would win, which I think that's kind of a crazy concept. Personally, I just look at strength of wins, you know, how dominantly you've won, strength of opponents, the kind of people. I mean, John Jones has faced a murderer's row since getting that 205 belt. You know, a few different things, but I don't know if I could put Chris above Jones or Aldo if he beats Vitor, because I mean, really, that's 2 title defenses, and yeah, I mean it is beating the greatest of all time twice, and Belfort now, who is a fucking phenom. I don't know. I just don't know if I can move him up as high as 2, because even, you know, Jose Aldo has put forth some very, very dominant victories over at featherweight. Ramses, what do you think about the pound for pound rankings? If he does beat Vitor Belfort, should Chris Weidman be in the discussion for being the best pound for pound fighter in the world?
Look, pound for pound, I know that people are just going to say you're just ripping off Chael, you're riding off of what he's saying, but it really, there is no such thing, because you can't compare. I mean, just physically to say who the best fighter in the world is, we wouldn't know unless we evened out the playing field, handicapped it in some way. There's no way to tell. But, I mean, you can easily tell who the best top maybe 5 fighters in the world are, but you can't say which of those 5 fighters would beat the other fighter if everything were equal. You just can't. It's impossible.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest dilemma, man. And so I really have no call to make or a witty comment, except that pound for pound is impossible to figure out truly, unless you know, Dana White went full Vince McMahon and did the Royal Rumble. Then I guess I would accept it if they were to run the rankings that way, by having a Royal Rumble every year. Anything goes. But yeah, man, I just don't know. I can't answer that one. I'll admit I'm stumped.
What is beautiful, though, when you don't have a witty comment ready, I have Cyber Ramses to play pretty much any witty drop I want to.
Katrina should have wiped that city off the face of the map, in my opinion. I stick by that comment forever. Having been to New Orleans for my brother's bachelor party a couple months ago. Worst city. I mean, unless you've been in the shit, man. Unless you remember Afghanistan. Yeah. I'm sorry if you live there.
that is not my only New Orleans-related Ramses drop.
And it smells like piss and puke everywhere. The smell never goes away. That is
really
actually 100% true. Bourbon Street, that area, nothing but puke and piss, and how else can I put it? The bad type of shorties. That's all I'll say.
Alan knows all about the bad type of shorties. Do you think Chris Weidman should be thought of, even in the discussion, as the number one pound for pound if he beats Vitor Belfort?
Pound for what? Pound for pound? What? What is that? Get out of here.
That's right.
So he shouldn't be the number one. He definitely shouldn't be thought of as the number one pound for pound guy if he beats Vitor.
There's no such thing. I don't believe in pound for pound.
Word up. Alan doesn't believe in the pound for pound, but he does believe in the beatdown. Let's get to our beatdown of the month for January. My beatdown of the month has got to go to Team MMA Podcast fighter. He's been on the show twice, which I think he's the only fighter in the UFC who's been on the show twice. It's Darren Cruikshank, who took out Mike Rio. Beautiful wheel kick, slapped Rio across the face with his foot like he fucked his bitch or some shit. Second round TKO, beautiful kick. Cruikshank moving up the lightweight ranks, and I'm saying it right now, he's going to be fighting for that 155 belt in 2015. Just watch. Ramses, who's your beatdown?
My best beatdown of the month of January happened in the UFC, and it was the Cowboy Donald Cerrone, who, contrary to popular belief in what I tweet and say and act, I don't hate him. I don't have anything against him. That broke-ass mountain joke was just, it wrote itself, and somebody had to do it, so I did. And I, once again, apologize. I understand, he's, oh man, wow, I was about to get myself in real trouble. I'll tell you guys after the podcast. But when you're temporarily rich, is what I'll call it, I don't blame him. He's an impulse buyer. But yeah, that beatdown was real. It was my pick because he redeemed himself for that fake-ass head kick knockout of Melvin Gillard, who did totally take a dive for him. Watch it again, people. This time, full on the chin, good connection. He's hungry, powerful. Donald Cerrone, the beatdown of the month against Martin or Martins or whoever. Not gonna work here anymore.
Hell yeah, Chris had to drop off the call, but I'm sure he would have picked Donald Cerrone too. His boy taking out Adriano Martins. And speaking of inappropriate jokes, Yao had, I believe he had Anthony Johnson taking out Mike Kyle in the World Series of Fighting as his beatdown of the month. Alan, what was your beatdown of the month? I know you almost picked Sal D'Amato beating down Josh Thompson.
Yeah, I had to change it because you reminded me of a fight that I enjoyed and looked forward to, and it happened at the beginning of the year. It was Tetsuya Kawajiri taking on the Black Zillion, Sean Soriano, who I have a lot of respect for now, but Tetsuya just put that fucking grapple fest on Soriano, and Soriano didn't know what to do, choked him out. So shout out to my boy Crusher MMA. Hello, America! Hello, UFC! Even though he was in Singapore. But, yeah. Beat down on the block.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That was a pretty great fight. I'm really looking forward to see if Kawajiri can throw down with the best of the best in his division. Speaking about the best of the best in their division, Diaz putting Bindo on blast, Josh Thompson on blast, calling them both like scrubs or something when their fight started, or right before they weighed in. one or the other. And then he apparently sent out a Twitter picture of a message he sent somebody. But yeah, I'll read it word for word. This is from Nate Diaz. Ramses wanted me to do it in my Diaz impression, which is pretty much the same as my Mike Tyson impression.
Just making a stone Mike Tyson.
That's right. All right, this is what Diaz had to say. It might sound like I'm misreading a few parts, but the entire thing isn't entirely grammatically correct. Let's read it. Here we go. Last night's fight was whack. First of all, these guys are here to cause confusion. I'm here to put these ass whoopings down their maximum effect, and you got these guys out there having a wrestling match. They're smiling and shaking hands and having a good old time instead of fighting for real. They're play fighting, and this shit's putting me to sleep. That's not what I signed up for. Nobody wants to watch that shit, and it's definitely causing confusion to the fans and the fighters. I don't know who's judging these fights. They should have both lost the fight. Then you got the other motherfucker, Pettis. He's obviously talking about the Bindo Thompson match and now talking about Pettis. Then you got the other motherfucker playing his Hollywood role on the sidelines in his hashtag silly ass suits, getting paid to sit there and state his bullshit opinion like anyone gives a fuck. You've been here like 2 years and pulled out a half your fights, so I don't know why you think you're calling the shots. How about you win another fight or two and then maybe you can fight me, motherfucker. P.S. I thought Thompson's bitch ass won the wrestling match. ... And what might be one of the best, just like I mean, Chael has had some awesome monologues, but like aside from Chael's shit talking, this might be the best fighter monologue of all time. Just talking massive amounts of shit about all of his opponents at 155, but at the same time a lot of people are saying he doesn't have the right to talk shit because he just turned down a fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, even though he's saying it was because of financial reasons. Dana saying that Nate wants to renegotiate his contract, and that's just not gonna happen. Alan, I heard you mute and unmute really quickly. What did you think about all the shit talking? Does he have the right to say it? Was this one of the greatest rants of all time?
I just want to go out on the record and say that if Nate Diaz had to speak those words word for word out of his mouth, it wouldn't happen. I don't believe he came up with all of that on his own. I think it's somebody else came up with some of that. That might be his feelings, like how he feels, but he definitely didn't come up with all that shit talking. So I want to give props to whoever actually wrote all that and came up with it, because they are pretty badass. Yes, that was awesome.
Ramses, what are your thoughts?
Well, first question, didn't Nate Diaz just get put on blast for some idiotic tweet a couple of days ago? I already forgot what it was. Damn, refresh my memory if you remember. But yeah, the fact that he tweeted about Henderson, Thompson, and Pettis in one rambling, just whatever the hell that was, text message or Instagram or whatever it was. He had nothing positive to say whatsoever. What is wrong with this guy?
He tweeted hashtag Marks when Bindo and Thompson stepped on the scale. What?
No, and he also said Dana and the UFC were full of shit. That's what it was.
Yeah.
This kid, I'm sorry, I love you, Diaz, man. I smoke probably just as much, if not more, weed as you, but even I've never been high enough to email my boss and tell him he's full of shit. And then this, like, what is wrong with this kid? Like, it looks like to me at this point, looks like he's looking for an out. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is all suspect. I know he's got to beat Diaz, and that's what they do. They're always controversial, but he's pushing it, man. And there's only so much the UFC is going to take. I mean, they'll set him up with a good fight just to cash in on his ass one more time, but it'll be against a killer. So Nate, didn't Thompson almost kill him? Beware and chill out, man. That's what the weed is for. It's not for the aggression.
Probably should cycle more toward an indica, more of like a stress reliever sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely, because this is not positive anymore. There's a difference between being the heel and like just being a fool. And we can guess which way he's leaning lately. Keep it in check, man. There's a smart way to do it. Learn from Uncle Chael. Word on the street.
Word on the street. And speaking of indicas and pot, Colorado legalized it, Washington legalized it. Both of their teams are going to the Super Bowl. We only talk MMA on the show, but it is time for the 10 solid seconds of sports where we talk all things not MMA. Here we go. Super Bowl week heats up as the Broncos and Seahawks prepare to go to war the day after UFC 169 at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Everyone angry about the Royal Rumble. Melo and KD drop insane amounts of points. NHL plays outdoor games. Winter Olympics.
Shit, I'm not going to come back from this one.
All right, we got two more little bits of news to talk about before we get to tonight's fight tip from Ramses in the UFC 169 preview. The first one being Keith Jardine. He apparently saw some fools chasing his mail, or saw some fools stealing his mail, chased him down in a high-speed pursuit and got their ass. This is kind of a loaded question because one of you guys I saw mention something about having a loved one get some mail stolen from him. The other one is law enforcement, so I'm sure he knows a little bit about it. At least with not mail theft, maybe knows a little bit about high-speed chases. But do either of you have any experience with mail theft or high-speed chases? If so, what are they? Ramses?
Yeah,
Give us the best story. Give us the best story possible if you have multiple experiences, because I know Alan's probably been in like 80-plus high-speed pursuits.
Oh, I'll keep mine short, man. Thanksgiving, a couple months ago, I went home to visit the parents. What we like to do is, we eat, we have friends, family over, we do some karaoke. During the karaoke, the machine burst into flames and, smoked and melted on the spot, ruining everybody's night. So for Christmas, naturally, I was like, fuck, I'll just fucking buy my parents a new fucking karaoke machine, top of the line, one of the weird ones, man, where it's a touch screen and you don't even have to search for the song. It already knows somehow. And then that of course showed up with a broken screen somehow in the shipping, so I had to send that back. Then I made a second attempt. Karaoke machine supposedly delivered to the front door of my parents' house. They never saw it, so it was obviously stolen. I'm going to find out who took it, and it's gonna be worse than the movie Payback with Mel Gibson. It's gonna be worse than the movie Takedown. It's gonna be worse than the Brazilian Brawl. I will find you. I have a certain set of skills and resources, one of which is Officer Allen himself, who I will pass the mic to. Mail theft or high-speed chases?
I'm just going to say, if you want to see what happens at the conclusion of a high-speed chase with me, check out my Instagram at Westland Eagle AH.
It's on YouTube, too.
I know the picture you're talking about. That guy's face was so fucked up.
Oh, yeah, man. Just search it on YouTube. I believe you search Rodney King, King. And, yep, that was Alan.
Hell yeah. All right, well, I believe we only have one more news topic left, and that is the fact that Jake Ellenberger is going to be taking on Tarek Saffiedine at UFC 172. Who do you have in that one? I have Ellenberger all day. Saffiedine's great at putting a good game plan forth. I'm glad he's fighting, twice in a few months. He spent like a year off, so I'm glad he's being more active. But I think Ellenberger is going to throw the kitchen sink at him, and it's going to be too much for Tarek. Alan, who do you got for this one? It's going to be at UFC 172, which will, I believe, be sometime in April in Baltimore.
I got some random South Korean fans gonna run in and chair shot both Ellenberger and Saffiedine, and it's gonna end in a no contest.
Damn, your connection was stroking out a little there.
Did he just say he was going to get a Korean to rob somebody?
I think so. I believe that's exactly what he said. But, I'm looking now. It's going to be April 26th, Baltimore, Maryland. Ramses, Ellenberger, Saffiedine, who you got?
Oh, God. I don't even... Honestly, I would not be able to place these guys' faces and recognize them if I saw them at a bar or even at a UFC expo. Jake Ellenberger, I would probably get him confused with Jake Shields easily. Saffiedine, he looks like that. Damn it! The EA Sports tweeted out a picture of Costa. He looks like Costa Philippou, doesn't he? I don't even know. So I don't care who wins, Ellenberger versus Saffiedine. All I care about, it's UFC 172. Is that going to be on the main card? Is that the main event?
No, the main event's going to be John Jones and Glover Teixeira.
Oh, Jesus. Well, if Ellenberger versus Saffiedine is on the UFC Fight Pass, I suggest you get one today at UFC.tv.
It will certainly not be on the UFC Fight Pass, but actually Jake Ellenberger's brother will also be fighting Yancey Medeiros at lightweight, so we'll see what happens there. Yancey boy coming off a win against Yves Edwards. Alan, did I ask you about Saffiedine Ellenberger? I lost track.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, you stroked out a little bit the first time. I don't think people were able to make out what you said. Saffiedine Ellenberger, who you got?
I got a random South Korean fan that's going to run in and chair shot both of them. Ends in a no contest.
That's what I thought he said.
Hung Yu Lim?
I'm not naming names. Just saying.
Not saying anybody, but definitely Hung Yu Lim. All right, yeah, that's going to be at the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland, April 26th. And that will obviously be headlined by Jones and Teixeira. We have a whole card to break down, UFC 169, to finish up the show. But first and foremost, you know what time it is. It's time for a fight tip from our boy Ramses. What's going on? Bring him to the dojo.
What's up, people? This is Ramses, and I'm back with another fight tip. This one's called How to Win Any Fight Where You Are Sucker Punched. It relates to what happened to Chael today early, allegedly at the hands of Dido, the musician. Basically, sometimes it happens, you're outnumbered, your homies are too drunk, they're too much of a coward. Well, that certainly wasn't the case with Sonnet, but you get surprised, you get attacked, all of a sudden his buddy's coming on you as well. You got 2-on-1, you get sucker punched, blows to the back of the head. What do? Well, you gotta cover up at first, it'll look like you're being a little bit of a coward. This will cause them to hesitate. At that point, you pull out a move used by Hagar, a character from the arcade game The Final Fight. If you're a child of the 80s, 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's about Hagar, who was the mayor of the city that he lived in. They kidnap his daughter, a gang of white Rastafarians, oddly enough, capture his daughter, you know, probably to go run an enormous train on her. And basically, in the Final Fight arcade game, you're Hagar. You decide the only way to get your daughter back, even though you're the mayor, you probably control the police, is to just, put on a tank top, hit the streets, and just beat the fuck out of every gangster you see on the street. That is the plot of Final Fight. And he has a special move that you can use when you're overwhelmed. You basically become a human tornado and start doing a spin fist, just a back fisting spin, like just keep rotating, hitting every face that comes close enough. It's the Hagar maneuver from Final Fight. It will work, guaranteed. You just have to commit to it. It will look silly and ridiculous, but I mean, no can defend. Honestly, look it up on YouTube. Hagar Final Fight. It's his special move. You have to fucking stretch your thumb and hit select to fucking make that happen on an old school arcade game. You'll hit. You will connect. You will knock people out. Spin shit always works. It's a tornado spin move that never ceases until all of them are dead or until your power meter runs out. Case of Chill Sonnen. Never happened, never will. God, never. It'll take more than two guys, alright? That was their big mistake. Team Vanderlei Silva. You only had two guys on them, even though it apparently escalated. But we won't get into that. With the fight tip of the month, that's it. Hagar maneuver, spinning tornado, spin shit. I don't even have a name for it. It's the Hagar maneuver. Look it up. Word on the street. Join us next week. See you at the dojo.
That's right. We'll see you at the dojo, or we might just see you at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, February 1st, 2014. Our buddies Ross and Yao will be there live. I think our boy Front Row Brian will be there live. Super Bowl weekend in the New York, New Jersey area. Originally was supposed to be Barao versus Cruz, the unification of the title. Cruz got hurt again, unfortunately tore his groin, so he's going to be taking on number one contender Uriah Faber in a rematch. We're also going to see Jose Aldo versus Ricardo Lamas. It's going to be a great card, but like we always do, we're going to start at the bottom and move our way up. Ramses, these three fights are only going to be on the UFC Fight Pass, so before we even talk about the three fights, how do we sign people up for the Fight Pass? And honestly, just a little word of advice: if you get a Fight Pass account, use a password that you don't use anywhere else, because there's something going on that the passwords might be encrypted, or not encrypted rather, so the passwords might not be that safe. So don't use the same password you use for like your bank. Like maybe use like the name of your favorite fighter and like a number or something, I don't know. But yeah, definitely watch out for that. The UFC Fight Pass has been under a little bit of criticism for lack of content and obviously the password thing, but I'm a big UFC fan, and they obviously seem to be working on making it better, so it's something I'm gonna stick out and ride along and see how good they can make it. But tell the people how to sign up for the UFC Fight Pass.
You just go to UFC.tv and click on the Fight Pass link. Sign up now for free for the rest of this month. And yeah, you still got another free month left to check it out. They're constantly improving. I already saw they made a few changes to the homepage layout today. So sign up for the UFC Fight Pass. It's the only way, unless you're in Brazil, that you're going to be able to see the Brazilian brawl that went down today between Sonnen and Silva. The UFC Fight Pass is the only way you're going to be able to see this crazy-ass season of TUF, where you heard it you heard it live happen right now over this podcast, the MMA podcast. Dana White saying the most out of control shit that's ever happened went down today. It got totally out of hand. It was a melee. It was worse than the Strike Force brawl where Mayhem Miller got ganged up on by the Diaz brothers or some shit. I forget what it was about. But yeah, definitely UFC Fight Pass. It's worth it. It's constantly improving. I am going to do my damnedest to work with the UFC, promote it as much as possible. No lie, because I want you guys to see this season of TUF. Son and the team, Son and crews and coaches, Coach Jamie Huey, Scott McCoy, Clayton Hires, Vinny Magalhaes, they're all giving a lot up and risking a lot just to do this. The least you can do is pony up. Honestly, it's going to air, if you're a cheapskate, it's going to air for about 2 to 3 months on the Fight Pass. That's a total of, $30 if you just want to cancel right after that. That's worth seeing this season of The Ultimate Fighter. Trust me, it's getting violent. But yeah, the prelims for this upcoming card on Saturday or whatever day it does actually happen.
Let me break them down.
Oh, I thought we were
down
on.
really quick. Yeah, first Rogan. What do you think about the Fight Pass?
It's amazing.
That's right, you heard it from Joe Rogan himself. Yeah. But we're gonna see 3 fights on the card, or on the Fight Pass portion of the card at least. A welterweight fight between Neil Magny and Ghassan Umalatov, a lightweight fight between Tony Martin and Rashid Magomedov, and a middleweight fight between Team Jones alumnus Clint Hester taking on Andy Enns, who actually was the man who was beaten by Uriah Hall and the prelims for the TUF House. So Enns was 1 fight away from getting into the TUF House and had the unfortunate consequence of having to face Uriah Hall in that first match. But what do you think of these 3 fights? I'm looking forward to see what Magomedov and Hester can do. Ramses?
Yeah, pretty much the only fight I'm looking forward to is Clint Hester versus Enns. And yep, you hit it right on. This is an easy one for Hester. I mean, in the Uriah Hall fight, Enns basically got his hand broken by a kick from Uriah Hall. All right, so right away, Clint Hester's got my money on that one. It's gonna be easy money, even though Enns is actually a damn good fighter.
Yes.
But yeah, just Uriah Hall, man, did some damage. That adds up over time, and he's going to have the octagon jitters. Hester's been in the game. He actually made it into the house. Enns is going to have to dig down, man. I don't see it happening. But that is the prelim UFC Fight Pass fight that I am looking forward to the most.
Alan, what do you think about these 3 fights?
What do I think about them?
Yes.
I mean, Neil Magny's gonna get destroyed. Don't know the other 2 guys that are fighting, and Clint Hester is a fucking destroyer. All he has to do is be aggressive. Enns might be good, but I mean, Jesus Christ, Clint Hester, the dude can be such a destroyer, dude. I'm serious. I think Clint Hester's gonna take it.
Yeah, the two guys I mentioned, Rashid Magomedov, he's actually won his last 8 in WMAC and M1, and Clint Hester obviously is on a 5-fight winning streak. He's won both of his UFC fights via KO or TKO against Bristol Marundi and Dylan Andrews. Before we get to the Fox Sports 1 part, actually our boy Technics88, our boy Kevin over there, who always likes us to give the oosh shout out on the show. Oosh. He mentioned something I totally forgot to bring up in the news, and it kind of goes along with talking about Fox Sports 1. Ariel Helwani, apparently not a part of the Fox Sports broadcast. They, even first I think it was reported on by Front Row Brian. Ariel then later said, "Yeah, I'm here with the fans at the weigh-ins," and then I think after the event said, "One day I'll tell the story, but everything's fine, and I'll probably do future events." It seems like it's only going to be a temporary thing. Maybe Fox Sports 1's just trying out new stuff. But what is going on with fucking Ariel? Our boy Kevin was saying, "Can you please talk about the Anteater, a.k.a. April Hawaii? He tried to make Thompson cry at the presser to look weak. He works for the UFC. We all know it. Word on the street." Ramses?
Yeah, Ariel, of course, kept it low-key on his explanation that he gave on his podcast or show today. He was dancing around like Bloodstained Lane after watching the movie, what's that stupid Patrick Swayze movie? I'm so glad I can't remember that movie. The dancing movie with Patrick Swayze. Basically,
did he dance at all in Ghost?
Actually, I think they do. I think he dances like with his, like, as a ghost with
Or are you thinking of Dirty Dancing? Wasn't Patrick Swayze in
Dirty Dancing? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is some dirty ass shit here from Ariel Helwani, some dodging ass shit. Like, obviously, man, something happened. He even said, "Someday I'll tell you the truth." But apparently he's claiming he's got both gigs. But, no, I noticed Babe definitely taking his place this weekend. I don't know about you guys. They couldn't have picked a better chick. She's really sweet. She takes time to reply to the little guys. I'm trying to buy her dog. And she said flat out no. But then Joey B, he offered me the dog for $6. But of course he probably got into a little trouble for that.
What the fuck, dog?
I know it doesn't make sense. You'd have to follow my Twitter. But basically, Ariel, he did something. He fucked up. Could it be that he interviews people from different promotions, heavy hitters? Could it be that he had an interview with CM Punk?
Dog, are you fucking serious?
Where Punk said the card was going to suck? Could it be the fact that he was talking down the Fight Pass instead of promoting it? He knows who his paychecks are coming from. He should know better, but he's trying to be the consummate journalist, come off that way. He's in a rough spot, but not one that I really envy too much. There's always going to be money on one end of the tunnel. But yeah, Ariel, get your shit together, but don't lie to us, man. You got a hand slapping and a demotion. Just cop to it, dude. Word on the street.
That's right, and I wasn't trying to play those Diaz drops to disagree. I was just playing all the drops that said dog in them because you were talking about that dog. Shout out, by the way, to JRESoundboard.com. Alan, what do you make of all this Ariel Hawaii nonsense?
I really don't know. It was really strange and abrupt that it happened. Definitely got to be something behind it. I mean, it didn't just happen for no reason. There's some type of explanation that we're missing. Whether or not we find out what really happened, I mean, somebody's got to have the beans, and eventually they're going to get spilled whether Ariel or the UFC wants them to. So, don't know, don't have any ideas. I'd like to know, though, so...
We shall definitely see. All right, let's move up the board to the Fox Sports 1 prelims. We got a lightweight match between Sarah Longo standout ally Aquinta. He's taking on Kevin Lee. A middleweight match between Nick Catone and Tom Kong Watson. We got Chris Carriasso taking on Danny Martinez. And at lightweights, we got John the Bull McDessie taking on Alan Patrick. What stands out here, I think Iaquinta, Carriasso, and McDessie all cruise to finishes. Alan?
Yeah, you want to look at these fights and think that they're going to be interesting matchups, but I think they're pretty much, for the most part, cut and dry. McDessie, bigger name, is supposed to win. Carriasso is supposed to win. Watson, he's kind of hit or miss, but I think he shows up and puts it on Nick Catone, and I think Ally Quinta fucking murders.
What do you think, Ramses?
Shit, man. It's you know me. It's hard for me to pretend like I give a damn about most of these fights when it's not no names, but if you're not a heavy hitter, if you're not a star, it's hard to get my attention. But Ally Aquinta, he definitely got my attention for what was it? Retweeting someone that was talking about fags or something like that, something about a faggot. He retweeted that and didn't catch any flack for it. I don't know if that's because he's just not popular enough. Nobody cares.
Think that's
Yeah, and obviously he's got balls and testosterone. Maybe not the best judgment, but the balls and testosterone, hopefully that's enough for him to win. That's the only fight I care about in the prelims.
Word. Well, we'll get to the main card, and I'm actually going to bunch these first two fights up. First, in the lightweight match, in a lightweight match, you got Jamie Varner taking on Abel Trujillo. Varner, 2-2 since joining the UFC back May 2012 at UFC 146, had that upset TKO in the first round against Barboza, then lost to Lauzon later in 2012, then beat Melvin Gillard via split decision, then lost to Gleison Tebow via split decision at UFC 164. He's taken on Abel Trujillo, who is 2-1 in his last 4. He had the no contest against Roger Bowling because Abel landed an illegal knee, but then in the rematch beat Bowling. In the 2 fights before that, beat Marcus Leveser and lost to the standout Khabib Nurmagomedov. We also have a flyweight match. John Lineker, 4-1 since joining the UFC, lost to Luis Gaudino in his debut, but he's won his last 4 since. He's missed weight. The last 2, though, weighed in at 129 against Jose Maria at 163, weighed in at 128 at UFC Fight Night Machida Munoz late last year against Phil Harris. Dana White's actually said this is a guy they would think about for a title shot if he wasn't missing weight all the time. He is facing a guy Alan and I saw live in Vegas at UFC 167, Ali Bagatinov. He beat Tim Elliott. He's 2-0 in the UFC since joining this past September. Very active. He's going to have his 3rd UFC fight, and he's only been in the organization for 3 months now, taking on John Lineker. As far as the odds go for the Jamie Varner fight, Varner is a -150 favorite. For the Ali Bagatinov fight, Ali is the -125 favorite. Ramses, what's the word?
Man, it's hard to get behind this. I won't even try. I'm gonna phone a friend. His name is Alan. He lives in Louisiana. I will phone him and ask for his opinion on these fights because I have none. But I'll keep the money. Alan, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. I don't know, John Lineker. Well, let's start off with Jamie Varner and Trujillo. Varner's faced much more dangerous strikers than Trujillo before, and he's come out on top. I mean, he was the guy who stopped. who am I thinking of? The head kick, Edson Barboza. I mean, he stopped Edson Barboza when he was supposed to lose that fight. He's been win or lose, split decisions. Exciting fighter. I like Jamie Varner. I think he's in a good place right now. I definitely want to see him pull this one out. I think he wins it by decision. I think he just grinds out Trujillo. Bagatinov and Lineker. Lineker is a really heavy puncher, and he has problem making weight. And apparently they got him hooked up this time to where he's not going to miss weight. But after watching Bagatinov in his last two fights, I think he's just a more well-rounded fighter than Lineker, and I think he's going to pick John Lineker apart. I think it's going to be kind of like a sparring session, and Bagatinov's just going to pick him apart, hit him, pitter-patter him, and maybe come to third round, break him down and submit him possibly.
Yeah, Vegas seems to think that Varner will win a decision, but looking at the odds, it's actually pretty interesting. It's pretty close odds with Lineker at plus 105, Bagatinov at minus 125. It's also pretty even on whether the fight goes the distance or not. Goes the distance plus 105, doesn't go the distance minus 135. So Vegas seems to have no idea what's going to go on in this fight. We will move on. Frank Mir taking on Alistair Overeem. This, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but it's likely a loser leaves town match. You got Frank Mir, who's lost his last 3 now. He had that incredible submission against Big Nog, but since getting that, he's lost to JDS, Daniel Cormier, and most recently Josh Barnett back at UFC 164. He's taken on Alistair Overeem, who's lost his last 2 after defeating Brock Lesnar back at UFC 141. It's hard to believe that Alistair Overeem hasn't won a fight since 2011. That was back at the MGM Grand, December 30th, 2011. His last 2 fights he's lost to Antonio Silva via KO in the 3rd round at UFC 156, and Travis Brown back last August at that UFC Fight Night Shogun Sonnen card in Boston that Allen was there at, doing it up VIP style. I've briefly talked about this fight before, and I just think stylistically it's a horrible match for Mir. Mir has shown that his biggest weakness is getting trapped in that clinch and taking damage, and Overeem's biggest strength is getting people in the clinch and inflicting damage. So I think Overeem wins this. If I'm going to be talking about odds, it's very, very likely that Overeem wins, according to Vegas. Overeem a minus 330 favorite, and actually the odds of Overeem winning by finish is minus 250. So people are pretty much expecting Overeem to not only win but finish Frank Mir inside of 15 minutes. Alan, what do you think about this? The Reem taking on Mir.
Looking at Alistair Overeem and his physical makeup is like transformation. He went from this like HGH, like juiced out bodybuilder type guy in 2011 to, he slimmed down a little bit against around the time he was supposed to take the JDS fight before he failed the drug test. And then in his fight against Bigfoot Silva, he looked really, really, really soft. He for a guy, for how he normally looks. His stomach looked a little bigger than what it normally is. He didn't have the muscle definition. And, then fast forward to the Travis Brown fight, he looked better, but he didn't look that great. He looked like he was in like a transitional phase. And now if you look at pictures of him online in Thailand, he definitely looks like he's about 15 to 20 pounds lighter than the last time that we saw him. His waistline and his, just his body is changed. He looks like he can make 205 pounds. I don't know if that's something that he's like aiming towards, but he's a lot smaller. So taking that into consideration, I think that only helps Frank Mir as far as the clinch, it might make Alistair a little more apprehensive, trying to clinch with Frank Mir because, Frank Mir, he still is a strong guy. He's been out grappled or out clinched against the cage by Josh Barnett and Daniel Cormier. But Alistair Overeem, in this transitional phase and him losing this weight and size, he might not be able to control Frank Mir like those two guys did. So we just have to wait and see. I actually kind of am leaning towards Frank Mir winning this fight. It going to the ground at some point, him getting Overeem down on the ground and grabbing a limb and, just snapping it. I'm taking Frank Mir by submission in the second round.
Mir by second round submission. What do you think, Ramses?
Exact opposite, actually. Mir, you know how I feel about the certain fights. Mir is a jobber. He's gonna put Overeem over, cause yeah, I just noticed that now too. He's gonna put Overeem over. Basically, this is the year of desperation for the UFC so far. They lost two of their top pay-per-view draws, and honestly, it doesn't matter if Overeem loses his next two fights. He's still going to be a pay-per-view name and draw. But you definitely want him on a win streak. Mir's the perfect man to give it to him. And he's still paying his penance because he was not supposed to break Nog's arm off the shoulder like he did. That's just the word on the street. So he's got to lose to Overeem, in my opinion. You'll see it.
Word, we will. Another fight we're going to see is the featherweight championship. Jose Aldo, one of the pound-for-pound kings, he and John Jones. He's 23-1. He's looking for his sixth title defense against Ricardo Lamas. He's defended the UFC championship against Hominick, Florian, Mendez, Edgar, Chan Sung Jung, and now looks for number 6 against Ricardo Lamas. Lamas himself is on a 4-fight winning streak. He lost to Yuri Alcantara back at WEC 53 since joining the UFC 4-0. He moved down to featherweight after that Yuri fight from 155 and has been unstoppable at featherweight, defeating Matt Grice in the first round via head kick, Cub Swanson via second round arm triangle choke, Hatsu Hioki via decision, Eric Koch via TKO. It's a kind of funny, his last fight that earned him the title shot. I don't know if it's as impressive as his last two against Hioki and Swanson. The win against Swanson does Lamas a lot of good. But Jose, huge favorite. Like I said, one of the best in the world. I believe he's the biggest favorite on the entire card, minus 600. Has not only beaten everyone the UFC can put in front of him for a title shot, but has beaten them impressively. Knocked out Mendez in the first round, beat Chan Sung Jung via TKO. The only place I could see Lamas winning is dragging him into the deep water, because it seems like, his one weakness is being, dragged into the later rounds and not having a gas tank. So if Lamas could maybe get Aldo to a point where, it's even on the scorecards going into round 5 and Lamas is really grinding him out, that would be very interesting. But I don't know. I just really can't see Lamas beating Jose Aldo. Ramses, what do you think about the fight?
Well, Ricardo Lamas, he also suffers from the same. He's got the fucking Stipe Miocic syndrome going on, where he actually speaks perfect English, but his problem is...
Everyone thinks he's from a different country. He's from Chicago,
man.
Illinois, ladies and gentlemen.
And he's not very memorable, but I will give him credit. I think he might pull this off. Aldo's breaking bones in every fight now. It's getting there. It's taking its toll on him. Lamas, hopefully he comes in hungry. but not from the weight cut or dehydration. I'm talking hungry. If so, he can take this one. But obviously the UFC needs to keep a belt in Brazil, and it's probably going to be Aldo. I won't go into work, this and that, but here's to Ricardo. Your moment to shine. I'm sorry that you can't win it.
Alan, we got Ricardo Lamas, the Division III All-American black belt in BJJ against Aldo, also a black belt in BJJ, training out of Nova União, a pound-for-pound king. Who you got?
Man, I mean, what do you say? I love the Korean Zombie, but let's be honest, Ricardo Lamas should have been fighting for this belt back in August at UFC 163. It was his title shot. Korean Zombie was on a 1-year layoff. I think out of all the guys in the division, I know Chad Mendez matches up really well with Aldo, but he's already had his shot, and he'll probably get the next shot at whoever's the champ. But I think Ricardo Lamas matches up really well. I think he's a really tough guy. He brings a lot of tools and different looks to Aldo. He's a real good wrestler. He's got a real good base. He's strong on the ground on top, which is where Aldo is really, not at his best, is when he's on his back. So if Lamas can be persistent enough and actually fast enough to take Aldo down, if somehow he can get Aldo down, then I think that, like in the Coke fight, he could finish this fight. The only thing that kind of worries me is that he's been KO'd by a guy who fights at 135 pounds now. And we all know what Aldo can do with one strike. So I think it's going to be an interesting match. I think I just don't know if he's the guy to beat Aldo. I don't really see it happening. I think it could end up being a closer fight than anybody else has ever given Aldo, even closer than the final round that Mark Hominick had with Jose Aldo. But I don't know if Ricardo Lamas is the guy to finally dethrone Jose Aldo. Would I put money on it? Yeah, look at the odds. Why not? But to be honest, I really can't pick him against Aldo. I don't think he's the guy. We might not even met the guy that's supposed to beat Jose Aldo.
Word. We'll definitely see Saturday night. That's not the main event, though. We will get to the main event, Renan Barão and Uriah Faber. But first, we got to get to the stat of the day. Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day! Renan Barão has not lost in 8 years and is on a 31-0 streak. 31 is currently the longest active streak in the whole sport and the third longest in MMA history, behind Travis Fulton with 40 and Igor Vovchanchyn with 42. That's your stat of the day. Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Stat of the day! Here comes the stat of the day! Shout out to Jamie Jost and the Dan Patrick Show. Definitely check him out this week in New Jersey for Super Bowl week. Let's get on to the bantamweight title match. Renan Barão taking on Uriah Faber.
Can you hold on for a second, Jake? Yeah. There was another stat, surprisingly enough, on Ariel Hawaii's show, which I wish I could specifically recall. I think it had something to do with Cerrone. Cerrone, doesn't he have now the most fight bonuses in the UFC?
I think
he.
Yes.
Yeah.
He surpassed Anderson and whoever else was tied.
So there's my drunken stat of the day there.
Yeah,
Actually, on
Drunken
Xanax.
stat of the day. He earns $50,000 and breaks the record. UFC on Fox 10 said the money was already gone like a fart in the wind. UFC 169, Renan Barão, like I mentioned, the guy is on a 31 fight winning streak. Since joining the UFC is 6-0. Has defended his interim belt twice. Since beating Uriah Faber, he beat Michael McDonald and Eddie Wineland. Now he's going up against Faber again. Faber is on a 4-fight winning streak against Ivan Menjivar, Scott Jorgensen, Yuri Alcantara, and Michael McDonald since losing that title fight to Barão back at UFC 149. I keep bringing up the odds, so I'll bring it up for this one. Barão, a pretty sizable favorite. He's minus 280 to Faber's plus 230. Barão, a sizable favorite, but not anything impossible. Not like the minus 600 we see for Aldo over Lamas. I think rationally all of us are picking Barão here because Barão has fought him before, and it was a pretty one-sided fight. So I'll ask a sort of different question. Can Uriah Faber beat Renan Barão? And if so, what does he need to do to beat him? Alan?
Definitely I think he can beat him. I definitely think Uriah Faber has the tools. He has the mental toughness to beat Renan Barão. If you watch most of Renan Barão's fights, they haven't been barn burners. He's pretty much dominated and pretty much controlled the pace. And that is the one thing that Uriah Faber has to do in order to win the fight, is to stop Renan Barão from controlling the pace. Controlling the pace is the key to the fight, because if Uriah Faber can implement his game plan, he can push the pace as he's done in his last several fights. Go after Barão, close the distance, get in on him, shoot takedowns. He doesn't want to stand on the outside and trade with him. So if he can get in there, at least put the fear of the takedown in there. That way his striking is a lot more efficient and a lot, it's got the threat of the takedown in the back of Barão's mind at all times. He'll be able to land a lot more. And, we've all seen that Uriah still does have knockout power. But definitely he needs to push the pace, implement the wrestling. I think if Uriah Faber could get Barão on the ground and grind him for a bit, we could see Barão, maybe mentally break, because he's still a young kid, and even though he's got this long undefeated streak over these last couple of years, he's never seen deep waters like Uriah has. Uriah's been in there, and especially against like the Yuri Alcantara fight in Boston. Faber was in deep trouble in that first round right away, and fought back and then just dominated the rest of the fight. And for a guy to not mentally break after being in such a bad position and to come back, it just speaks to Uriah Faber's mental, the toughness that he has, the belief in himself. The guy believes that he is the best in the world on any given day and that he can beat any other, bantamweight out there. So I think that Uriah Faber can win. Is he able to do the things that he needs to do? If he's able to do those things, I think he wins. If he doesn't, we'll see a repeat of UFC 149, and he'll get picked apart on the outside by Barão.
Damn, that was a solid-ass breakdown. What do you think, Ramses?
Well, I have the exact opposite of a solid-ass breakdown. I have complete paranoid-based speculation. The only way Faber wins is if it's a work. Let's face it. If you can do the math and you pay attention to Faber's last fight post-injury report, you see he was supposed to be out a couple months with a broken hand. And I've always constantly, if you followed me, I know for a fact that Faber has glass hands, breaks them in every single fight. Okay, so he's gonna fight Barão with broken hands. His only hope is just to somehow shoot on the guy and then elbow him to death, and then get that rear naked choke, which Barão is probably training for if if anyone can translate this into Portuguese, tell him to train for that. That's the only way he's going to get beaten, unless, of course, they pay him to lose outright, which I don't think they'll do. They definitely always want to see Faber win that title, so I wouldn't put it past them this year, them just being an unnamed organization. But, yeah, man, it's going to take a work or a miracle involving elbows and a submission. I mean, it worked against Michael McDonald, but Renan Barão is a champion for a reason. And that's all I have to say about the fight.
Word up. That also was a solid-ass breakdown, and we do thank you for listening to the MMA Podcast tonight, the 75th episode. Just another reminder, we are moving it from Monday to Wednesday, so next week, check out the show on Wednesday night, and remember to call in and tweet in and be a part of the show. We always appreciate when people do that. And don't forget to visit our friends at awaketours.com. Check out the UFC tour, 50% off. Use the promo code MMA Podcast. Ramses, where do we find you on the Twitter world?
Well, for right now, follow me on Twitter at the Ant Jimmy Show. And the Word in the Street podcast, not sure if it'll air tomorrow, depending on if the pipeline to Team Son and Coach Jamie Huey gets set up. He'll tell us a little bit more about the brawl as much as he can. But like I said, follow me on Twitter and you'll know if that's going down or not. Thank you.
Alan, where do we find you, buddy?
You guys know where you can find me. You can catch me on Twitter, Westlin Eagle AH, and also on Instagram.
Word up. Thank you so much for everybody listening. We appreciate the shit out of each and every one of you. Don't forget to tune into the Word on the Street tomorrow. Until next time, fight fans. We gone.